Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
Soul Journey, harness vitality. They are those willing to receive the natural form of medicine with an open mind, always eager to learn and discover new or even ancient ways of harnessing wellness. But are those who are not receptive to openness and who not only want to be with others, who simply live within such nut shells. Patricia Lavelle is a natural healer who will breathe fire into us, it says in my press notes. So I'm delighted to welcome onto the show the fire-breathing Patricia Lavelle. Good morning to you, Patricia. I don't know where this breathing fire thing came in. Should I be standing back with a blanket and an extinguisher to hand? I mean, I know that. Good morning to you.
I think it's the spark of life.
Ah, the chispa, as we say in these parts.
Yeah. So it's the fire does bring out a lot of sparkle.
Right.
But the sparkle's more gentle on my side than it would be from an actual fire.
Right, so that's good to know, he said, trembling behind his microphone. Now, you dropped a little information thing on me that I didn't actually know, because I was just going through the press notes. But you used to live in John Lennon's old house. Explain.
Yes, so John Lennon, 6 months before he went back to the Dakota building, lived on Long Island in a house called Cannon Hill. And it was called Cannon Hill in reference to London.
Right.
It had a cannon in the garden, and it had just underneath the trees was strawberry fields. So it had the strawberries. It had a shower that had 36 heads, shower heads in it. It had a sauna. It was a lovely, lovely house, and I was a nanny.
Ah, okay. Well, that's you see, I never know where my shows, and I just played Ringo Starr just off the top of my head because his birthday, and then you dropped that one on me. Anyway, let's not talk about all things Beatles, or I would love to. Tell me a little bit about yourself and this particular book, then.
So the book is a memoir of my healing journey. I was living in Australia, having the best life, and moved back to England, but in that time my parents had moved to Ireland. So I started back into work mode, got a job, but then couldn't feel my feet. And then I woke up one day and my legs weren't doing what they were meant to do, and then I couldn't see properly. So I went to a consultant, and from that I got diagnosed MS in a short version.
Right.
And the book is all about my journey of the diagnosis, up to the diagnosis, which was 30 odd years, and allowing yourself to understand trauma can cause problems to the body. So I've written a book of all different stages in my life that have caused me traumas, from being a light bearer, I suppose, a gentle, kind person, not realising that not everyone's like me. Or not realising that everybody's like each other.
Hopefully, I mean, most of us will never have to deal with such a diagnosis. But you're there, you're younger, you're healthy, you've got a vibrant life. To get diagnosed with MS at that point must have come as a complete thunderbolt, Patricia.
Well, for me, I've been brought up to help others. So when the diagnosis came to me, it was to help others. So my instant thing was to go on to trials and test medications, etc., etc. And my mother stepped in and said no to medication, because my consultant, when he first diagnosed me, said, do not go on medication. Your symptoms from the medication will be worse than your symptoms from the MS. So that was my seed. Right. And I started to investigate all this information of not going on medication and going down the road less travelled. And lots of things, opportunities started to open up to me. I started to come across lots of different people, and they introduced me to different ways of living.
I suppose one of the things is the fact that if you get a diagnosis like that and then they're saying, okay, well, because we live in a world where basically in 9 times out of 10, the thing is, we'll take this pill, take this medication, and then you're not going to get better than this. It's just a question of managing it, which is always a word that strikes fear. We're going to try and help you manage this particular situation, and that is the sort of default setting, because you kind of throw yourself into the hands of medical professionals. And you say, you talk about a road less travelled and looking at other alternatives. I mean, is this something that, your mother was obviously a forceful person in this as well. Is this something that you had been interested in before, or did it come to a fore when you got your diagnosis?
It came 2:04. I did, in fact, the day that I got diagnosed, the nurse said to me, "You could get run over by a bus tomorrow." So it was all introducing me to, maybe think beyond and out of the box. And I've never been somebody that you could put into the box. I would always jump out, question. I did lots of different things, like took my driving tests after 7 lessons and passed, although I was told not to. I moved to New York, gave up my job on the Friday, moved on the Monday, didn't tell my mum till the Saturday because I knew she wouldn't want me to go. So I've always gone against the grain for the benefit of myself and adventure.
When you go to something like this, though, with a medical diagnosis, I mean, there's an awful lot of information out there. You know, people are always saying, "Well, do your research." A lot of that would come off the internet, and you have to be careful. I think, Patricia, is that what you were? I mean, did you have a grounding in this? Because otherwise, it could have taken you down. I mean, you look very healthy as I'm looking at you now, but you see where I'm going with this. I mean, with the wrong information, could maybe lead you down a more a less healing path, or did you kind of knew what you were looking for, or certainly what you weren't looking for?
Well, I believe that we're all on a journey, and people present themselves to us within that journey, and then it's choice to take the different directions of things, to take the different. So the doctor would present to you what's best for the MS, but what's best for you. So I think the journey for you is coming up against different people, blending into your tribe, blending into different people that are for you, and you learning from those experiences. So for me, I didn't have a clue. I didn't say I'm not going to do this. I didn't say I'm going to do this. It just happened. I was in an excellent position that I moved back to Ireland, and I could stay with my parents, and I didn't have to work at the time. So I was more open to opportunities. I've not been married. I don't have any children. So I'd never had those responsibilities that restricted me from doing certain things. So being in an environment with other people can restrict you from making choices that are best for you. So in my book, I've written different chapters of how I got to that stage of MS, of how my nervous system was near on broken, how the choices I made caused the trauma in the first place. And then after the age of 30, the choices I made to undo the trauma to make myself better.
You see, the thing is, a lot of people would treat this as purely a medical issue, i.e., I know what my symptoms are, I know where the diagnosis will lead, in this case with MS, and so therefore it is purely, if you like, a medical issue. But you have now twice brought up the word trauma, and that entails that we're doing a lot of work here that isn't medical, but it is emotional and it is mental, and that is a bit of a leap, because, you know, and I use this word because this word is bandied around all the time, holistic, but you have to, did you look at trauma as a starting point for things firing off, if you were, which got you to that point where you had the diagnosis?
No, it wasn't until 20 years later that I realised trauma from the age of 0 to 30 had caused the symptoms and had caused the problems within my body. So my nervous system had reacted. My cells had kept the memories. So when the memories repeated themselves, it instigated a not safe in my body. So my nervous system would go into flight. I seemed to live the life that attracted narcissistic types of personalities. I mean, you can't diagnose people with that, but that's the kind of energy that was coming towards me. So I feel myself that my journey was and is a way of living and a purpose. So my purpose got me from working in law to then change career and now work with holistic health. So whether I was diagnosed to help people, whether I was diagnosed and caused and went through the life of trauma, to then use those experiences to help other people that are going through the same similarities, I'm not sure, but it's worked out that way. So,
I mean, you're not possibly suggesting that those who work in the legal profession might have a hint of narcissism in their personality. Surely not, Patricia.
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. I think we've all got narcissism in us, to be fair. We all like to look after ourselves, and we all like to have attention, and we all like to talk. We all like to be heard. We like to have peace in our minds. We like to be safe. So sometimes there's an extra stretch where people stretch themselves to be in the tension, or they step back. And sometimes when you got diagnosed with an illness, stepping back is the only thing you can do to reassess yourself, like Control-Alt-Delete in a computer system. start again. But I was able to do that because I didn't have the responsibilities of being married and have children in my eyes. So I was more free. My life was freer to make choices that were just about me.
Now, I'm going to phrase this next question very carefully because I don't want this to be misconstrued. But when we're talking trauma here, because it depends on your definition of trauma, and this is why I'm handling this very carefully. Because many people with trauma, they would go, oh, well, I lost a parent, or I had an abuse, or I had an issue with addiction, or whatever. Are we talking, and I don't need to pry into your personal traumas, but are we talking large-scale traumas, or are there, if you like, more subtle traumas that can kick something off, Patricia?
Well, I believe it's a build-up. So my trauma, I believe, that caused the MS, or the symptoms got worse from, was a car accident.
Right.
It's what was going on before the car accident and what took me towards the car accident. And then after the car accident, I moved to Australia. So my life in Australia was very relaxed, a different style of living. And my nervous system started to relax and my body system started to relax. Then when I came back into the corporate world, I came back from Australia, moved to England, came back into that environment, my symptoms started raising up and my body was saying, no, I don't want this anymore. You need to change. So your body can speak to you in different ways, from pain to tension to tightness. So trauma doesn't necessarily mean that no trauma is important, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have had high levels of trauma or low levels. It's just how your nervous system reacts to that situation at that time. It's
interesting, isn't it? Because, we're talking lifestyle here and a more relaxed lifestyle in Australia. A more, a less stressful life, and then you get back into the hurly-burly, because we know what places like London can be like. I mean, it is, and here comes the medical term, full on, and that could, and you are in defence mode at all times. Your body will be stressed. Your body will be producing all sorts of natural chemicals to deal with the stresses and strains of living in an urban environment. And whereas before, it was a more relaxed pace, and the body was able to sort of chill out more.
Definitely. So I worked in a law firm, or I worked for PwC in Sydney. So there was still a lot of stress there. But I was loved in that environment. There was a lot more relaxation. We stopped work on a Friday. We started socialising in the boardroom, having a wee drink. Then we'd go out. The sunshine was there, vitamin D. People were a lot more relaxed, more happy, I think, because the sea's just at the side of you. The Sydney Harbour Bridge is there, the Opera House, etc., etc. You're looking out, and people can reinvent themselves. They're not around that family member. They're not around those friends that they grew up with. They can reinvent themselves. They can actually be them and then attract their tribe, attract people that are similar to them. So when I went back to London, I took over from a project that was Holiday Inns had bought out Trust House. No, I think, anyway, Holiday Inns had bought 70 hotels. So I was not sleeping properly. I was driving up and down the motorway. I was going to different hotels. So, yeah, my lifestyle completely changed from Australia back to London.
So what sort of physical changes did you make? I mean, how did you, because you said you didn't want to go down the path that had been described medically for you. So when did you start recognizing the things that would make living with your condition bearable or even vibrant? Because again, a lot of people tend to be defined by their conditions rather than, but it's not that. If you have the power, I suppose, and you don't give that condition agency, then you can see yourself not in the role as a sufferer or a victim, but you can be proactive about it.
Definitely. I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
I didn't tell anybody that I had it. So I went to South Africa, traveling on holiday. I was waiting to go to Robben Island, Nelson Mandela. And I came across this hangar. It was huge. It was like an airport. I opened the door, being nosy as I am, and there was a man at my feet doing reflexology on another guy. And all the peripheral of the building was like A&E curtains. There was therapists all around the side of it. And he said to me, would you like reflexology? And that was a question I had no idea to answer because I didn't know what it was. I had the reflexology and I thought it'd broken every toe in my foot. The tears were running down my face. So the tension within my feet was being cracked. And I thought that was broken. I went across to Robben Island and I was sick as a dog. I was so ill.
Yeah.
Got to Robben Island, etc., etc. Anyway, when I came back from on holiday back to my parents in Ireland, there was no internet at that point, as in it was still dial-up. And I was reading a local newspaper and it said about a reflexology course. And I was like, oh, and it clicked me back to Cape Town. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to the open evening, talked about it. I was living in London. I signed up for the course. It started in October. I hadn't told my parents. I moved to Ireland, jacked in my job because I knew my mother would be, what, are you joking? Moved to Galway and then went to my parents and said, by the way, I now live here. I got a job in an underwear shop part-time, and then I started the course in October. And after that, the world just opened. It was crazy. I travelled the world for 3 years to find out about feet.
Yep.
I was just question. On the aeroplanes, I'd be like, oh, rub the top of your thumb for your nose. It'll help you breathe better. I was eating, sleeping reflexology. And when I went back to Australia to see friends, went to Festival of Feet, and they then started to tell me that there was loads of different maps of the body.
Right.
There was loads of different maps, but what that meant was these people specialised in lymphatic reflexology, maternity reflexology, cancer care. It was wild across the world because there's no National Health Service across the world apart from England, UK, as far as I know. I think Poland might have it. So there's more choice around the world because there's private healthcare and insurance, so they pay for blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so my world was being opened up to this different world that was living and existing, but it wasn't on my path. So my path changed, basically.
It's interesting because, I remember my first reflexology session. I was highly dubious with this whole thing. And then the reflexologist, and I used to drink a bit, to put it mildly, and my reflexologist said, you got a problem with your liver. And I was like, tush and body cock or whatever. And then she went clink at the bottom of my foot. And I suddenly this amazing pain, as I know it now, as she touched the bottom of my foot and my liver sort of literally sprang 20 foot in the air and went, hello, good afternoon.
Yeah. And then it releases the reason to why you're drinking. And once it does that, you don't need to drink anymore. So that memory within that cell goes down to your bladder or your adrenals and detoxifies, either goes out or rejuvenates. And you don't need to drink anymore because that release of why you're doing it has gone, that memory. And that's connected to the vagus nerve, which is a total different book. But so it's overstretched. So the more overstretched you are in those thoughts of anger or suppression or emotional connection, your organs stretch to accommodate those thoughts and they become cells within there. And then within the cells are memories. So once you dissipate those cells, it releases the memories to allow you to live better.
You see, we talk about muscle memory, but we never talk about molecular memory, do we? We don't.
No.
Right, yeah.
People know about muscles because the muscle talks to them.
Yeah.
If you start talking about cells, people will be thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. And then that's a different story. You have to go deeper. And then they're like, oh, I don't do deep. And you're like, okay, then, but you asked me. So it's all, it is. So reflexology is better left as silent. And they don't want to do deep, but they want to know about cells. And it's like, well, it connects with that because you're holding on to stuff.
Yeah.
And that's called deep. You don't want to release it because that calls releasing and letting go, and so control lets go. If you hold on to that memory, you're in control. If you let go of it, you don't know what you're going to be afterwards. Are you going to cry? You're going to be a mess? You're going to end up nutter? It's all lots of different things. Stay where you are. You can deal with it. Well, I'm not very good at that. I love to question. I love to travel. I love change. And funnily enough, I've just recently met Steve that's black and white and right and wrong. So he's completely the opposite to me. So that's entertaining. Yeah,
I'm sure it is. I just like the way you say, oh, I don't do deep. Oh, well, fine. If you don't do deep, then fine. We'll just stay how you are. But again, it's the whole thing of your evolution of yourself. Because if you think you've sprung out of the womb or whatever, perfectly formed, and that it's not going to get any better, you're not going to get any wiser, you're not going to develop as a human being. That's a bit of a short term thing, isn't it? Because all you're going to be concerned about is getting the new iPhone, Patricia.
Well, you see, you got to work out who passed away when you arrived. Because you've literally swapped the baton.
Right, okay. Yeah. So
you're bringing in lineage. So you're bringing in with you the journey to change whoever passed away, or lineage of connected with you. So my grandmother or my mother, or et cetera, et cetera. So the job and the journey starts. You don't know what the job description is and you don't know what the journey is. But if you open to this journey and open to that job, people will come into your course and you will either go with them or not. And that's choices. But eventually, if you don't start listening to what needs to change in your life, it gets louder, i.e. losing eyesight, not being able to walk properly. But to be fair, I am very stubborn, so the alarms need to be a lot louder in order for me to action.
Now, when you first started doing this, you were talking about the age of dial-up and kids ask your parents, but again, it was a community, because today I could just key in my rather splendid iPhone and go, and then there'd be a whole host of information and reflexology, and it's out there. But it must have been a really fascinating community to sort of to come into contact with, a couple of years ago, because we didn't have that knowledge, and reflexology was an art that very few people knew about, and the whole quote-unquote alternative medicine situation was kind of seen as a sort of a bit woolly, a bit sort of knit your own muesli community, wasn't it?
It was, and but where I was in Ireland, people were using reflexology, so doctors referring, consultants referring. I was doing end of life, so I was in a world that was already open to reflexology. So you could claim back, nowadays, why would you go for reflexology and go to the doctor? It's free. Whereas when I was living in Ireland, it was €100 to go and see a doctor. So it was €50 to go to reflexology. So there was an hour with reflexology where you felt great, and 5-10 minutes with a doctor that said, I'm not, I don't have enough information on that. That's not my
specific field. Yeah.
So what did Google say or whatever? But and also at the time there was no iPhones and there was no Android, so it was a case of you just went with the flow. It was like you go out cycling with your friends in the park, or you sit at home and play on the stations. It was just literally that. You were in an environment that used reflexology as something that helped you. So it was only when I moved to Scotland that I realised not everybody used reflexology to help them.
Right.
In Scotland, it was a treat.
It was a what, sorry?
A treat.
A treat. Ah, okay, fair enough.
Yes. I thought, well, you haven't had my reflexology because it's not a treat.
Yeah. And obviously, you're living proof, as it were, physician heal thyself and all that stuff. But as the more that you saw that you were thriving, I suppose is the word I'm going to use here, rather than surviving,
Yes.
So that obviously sparks more interest, and that's how we come maybe to the book.
Yes. Yeah, the book was all about helping people. It was my retirement to keep me busy. Not busy, but keep me in my work. I didn't want to retire and do what you do after you've been working, because as far as I'm concerned, since the age of 30, I haven't been working. I've been enjoying myself,
right?
Although I have been working, but I love my work. It's just what I love to do. I love to see the differences, the changes, people blossoming and opening up and getting into their area of what they need to do, their purpose.
And so how hard was it to write the book, or did it just sort of flow and
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 18 months it took to write, and each chapter was about me. So that was a lot of traumatic stuff as well, and remembering stuff and dealing with stuff. And then I took it to a publisher, and then it starts again. It took 6 months to go through proofreading and reading it and making sure everything's in the right place, making sure everything's what's meant to be in there. And then we published it and launched it at Chatsworth.
Very nice part of the
Chatsworth
world.
House.
Yes, indeed.
Which is I used to work with the Duchess of Devonshire, and that's where I lost my eyesight and my legs moving properly.
So it's come full circle, basically.
Full circle.
Wow.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. What are you hoping?
Well done for it.
What are you hoping that people are going to take from this book? Is it a starting point for people who? Yeah.
I believe it, so the book chapter 1 starts of me being age 3 and I broke my leg, and I was in hospital for 3 months. And so a 3-year-old in hospital for 3 months, a little bit of I loved it because I was chatting to everybody, but then I got sent back into the house where I wasn't the centre of attention, and I got put back into my home with 3 brothers that were the centre of attention, and it was like, oh no, it's her again. So I came home and I was called a doll, and when I was born, and then I went to hospital. I came back and I wasn't a doll anymore because I had found my voice. So, I was ignored basically from the age of 3. And so from that time, I felt each chapter I've landed into a clique people that are already formed. And I suppose that's my purpose of life, is to highlight cracks of light, I think, into areas of people.
The book is called Soul Journey. It's by the brilliant Patricia Lavelle, who's been today. Patricia, if people want to find you online and say nice things to you, or find out more about your fascinating worldview, to put it mildly, where can people find you and say lovely things to you?
My website is patricialavelle.co.uk. You can buy the book through there. You can contact me through there too.
Marvellous. And you can also order the book from our own virtual bookstore. The book is called Soul Journey. It's by the brilliant Patricia Lavelle. Patricia, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.